And welcome to Impact 2024, our continuing conversation where we talk about all types of topics from current events, from race, from religion, from politics, everything that we could possibly want to talk about. We talk about those from a religious standpoint. And so this is that continuing conversation. This is your opportunity to participate in the continuing conversation. How do you do that, you may ask? By typing your questions and your comments into the comment section. Feel free to type what you want, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, or just type it into the comment section and you will be able to get your comments up on the screen, and then we will be able to address them. You can say what you want to say, whether you agree, disagree, you have a question, whatever you want to do. You got to put that in there because you just don't want to hear what we have to say. You also want to be able to participate and be a part of the whole process. Before we get started, as always, I'd like to remind people of the other offerings that we have available here at Amano. We have on Thursdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have Thursday Thirst. That is a weekly Bible study that I encourage everyone to come to and join and participate in. On Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have service, a worship service. You can see here our address. If you're in the area, you can come by. Otherwise, Facebook and YouTube. Then on Tuesdays, today, at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have prayer. It's a time of prayer where everyone in the ministry prays together, not on the same call or anything like that, but all of us are praying. So you can pray with us. You can be praying in community with us anytime between 7 and 7:45. And then, of course, now we have Impact 2024, where you are at right now. And now that we got most of the formalities out of the way, we can hop right into what's going on. And what's going on is what's going on. And hopefully you've seen what's going on. Tonight is the vice presidential debate. That's going on. There was a huge hurricane where over 100 people passed away and many more are missing in up and down the East Coast. We know that is going on. We know that there are issues all across the country that are going on. And internationally, what we do know is that there is Israel, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, all of the different factions and things going over there. There is the brink of war, let's say that, of a major war, of a major conflict that's going on. For those of you who don't know, today, Iran sent over 200 missiles, ballistic missiles, over to Israel. You may not understand truly, you may, depending on what you looked at, may not understand truly the impact of that, but that is one of the largest missile operations of ballistic missiles. Is a particular type of missile. One of the largest operations that's happened. And so that is concerning. That is one of those situations where it could really turn into a major war, a major conflict. But we're not talking about that today. With all of these important issues that are going on, we're not talking about that. What we have to talk about is something that is trivial, something that is ridiculous, and something that is silly. And we haven't really been touching on it. We touched on it a little bit last week with our guests, but we're going to come back again at it today. And that is the fact that we have a group of people who are running for office, who got a story, a made-up story, and put it out there into the world in order to hurt a particular group of people. Now let's get to the specifics. Donald Trump and his people decided to put a story out about Haitian immigrants. Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, put out a false story that they were eating pets, eating animals, eating cats and dogs. And then the story went to the next level of going on and saying that these people were out here, they shouldn't be in the country, even though they're the immigrants that they're talking about, 20,000 immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are legal. They're legal residents. then going on and saying that those people needed to get out of the country, that they needed to be deported. Now, talked about this last week, we were talking about it again. I don't know if you know what Haitian immigrants look like. Haitian people, some people think, oh, well, Haitian people are this or Haitian people are that. Haitian people are just like everybody else. When they have a diverse group of people, they look all different types. But for the majority, they look black and brown because they are of African descent. And you would not be able to tell the difference between myself and a Haitian other than the fact of maybe the way that we would talk or maybe some small unique characteristic. But for the most part, you're looking at people who look just like me. You're like, well, just like me. And so when the story goes on and you're talking about individuals that look just like me, there's no really way to discern the difference between them and I. And so why is this why are we talking about this today? We're talking about it today because what we're talking about is an uproar of people who are using false stories and racist stories in order to get what they want to get. And why are we okay with that? And when I say we, I'm talking about there's so many people who have just been okay with that, brush that off. Allowing someone in a major position to just say racist things and to be discriminatory towards a group of people because you can isolate on them because they're Haitians. And we're okay with that as a whole. There are many people like myself, many people probably like the ones who are going to be able to see this will sit back and be like, no, that's not acceptable. That's disgusting. But on a grand scheme of things, that somebody is able to say this in a public forum, to be able to just say that these people make up a completely false story, completely just lying on people, saying horrible things about people based on where they're from, and based mostly on the color of their skin. You're going to say these things, and that there's no social repercussions. Of course, we live in a place where there shouldn't be any kind of criminal repercussions, but there's no social repercussions. And even when I'm talking about social repercussions, defamation is a real thing. You should be able to be sued, but there's no real repercussions. All the people who are putting out these lies will just sit back and, at the end of the day, they know nothing's going to happen to them. The worst thing that could possibly happen is, a couple of people will say some bad stuff about me online. Now, what kind of repercussions am I talking about? Of course, I'm not talking about anything on physical, because that would be ridiculous. But the kind of repercussions that I'm talking about is the fact that you can't you can't continue as a person to just support people, to prop people up who don't have any understanding of right and wrong and don't have any remorse for the things that they do. We all say silly things and we all say stupid things from time to time. I know I've done plenty. And I would hope that, once I'm able to sit back and look at someone and say, hey, this is crazy, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and then I don't do it again, that people would be able to have an understanding that I made a mistake. But when you have no remorse, when you don't even realize that you've made a mistake, or you don't care, or you're on purpose where you're lying and bearing false witness, there shouldn't be the same kind of level of, all right, well, let's just move past that. You have to be able to account for what you've done, and we should hold you accountable for what you've done. Now, who specifically am I talking about? I'm talking about our friends, our family, other folk who are just sitting out here saying things like, well, I don't like how that guy acts, but it's okay. Or I don't like what he's saying, but it's okay. Or that story may be untrue, but it's okay. And I'm even talking about on kind of like an election type of thing, where I'm saying, well, this person said all this, but I'm still going to vote for them. I'm not telling you who to vote for and who not to vote for. But I'm telling you, from my perspective, that I think it's unacceptable to even be able to, in your breath, be like, it's okay that the person is saying that. I think that you have to have a standard for yourself, and we have to have a standard as a community, as a country community, that we don't allow people to purposely try to harm folk through their racist and false accusations. Now, what I mean when I say harm? Well, according to reports, what has happened now is that the Haitian population, 20,000 people in Springfield, many people have felt unsafe. They had to cancel schools for some days because of threats. Numerous threats have gone on. People said they feel unsafe walking out on the streets. The mayor and the governor in Ohio have both said, look, these ridiculous claims need to stop. It's irresponsible. You're harming people. Kids, adults, men, women, old, young, all of these people in this population, you're harming them. Because you've come out here with fake stories. You've put these fake stories on a national scale, and you've put a target on these people's backs. And you know how people are. People, some people are extreme. They don't understand. They don't understand how they need to act and how they need to communicate. Even if you thought the story was real, you're angry. That does not give you the right to go and threaten people. That does not give you the right to scare folk and try to intimidate folk. But we currently have a group in the society that does that. Here is my number one problem and the reason that I brought this up. Because I think that as the faith-based community, we have to be the ones on the forefront of talking against that. And we have to be able to call a spade a spade. And it can't be, all right, well, this person is this, or this person is with this group, or I agree with this person on most issues. When somebody does something that's inappropriate, we all need to be able to call it out. We all need to speak to it. We all need to condemn it. We all need to put pressure on folks so that they can understand sometimes the error in your ways. Oftentimes the same things we use for kids is what we have to use for adults. And so I have a son. My son sometimes does not understand the seriousness of situations or the error of his ways if you just kindly communicate to him. Sometimes you have to sternly communicate it. You have to show a little bit of emotion for him to understand the seriousness of the situation. And I think that lack of emotion, that lack of sternness is the reason that sometimes adults don't understand the seriousness of situations. And so when you have these people, these politicians, these leaders who will lie, cheat, steal, do whatever, and no one wants to hold them accountable. No one wants to. People want to say, well, that's inappropriate, but that is not holding people accountable with the seriousness of the situation. I think the faith-based communities, we really have a issue with that sometimes. Some of us have an issue with that sometimes, where we don't want to convey the seriousness of the situation. I mean, you have to be nasty, rude, mean, but you need to be stern, and there needs to be a consequence. Not a consequence where I have to hurt somebody or something like that, but consequence can be the consequence can be something as small as, listen, I can't go with you here, or I can't join you here, or you're no longer able to have this particular position or whatever for right now, until you're able to realize the error of your way. It's been too many groups who cast a blind eye when people do something wrong. And so we have another person here. So one of the representatives in the House, in the U.S. House, decided to go out and tweet out some statements, some harmful and hurtful statements about the Haitian immigrants. Clearly racist statements that everybody understands were inappropriate. And the Speaker of the House, because they're in the same party, he kind of shielded him and protected him. He said that the gentleman was understood that his comments were inappropriate, that he prayed about it, and that now he sees that they weren't right. Now, the representative that made those comments, he doubled down on them. He didn't, he's, at one point he said, yeah, well, those weren't right, but then he goes right back to it. And so there was no consequence. There was really no pressure in putting down, like, look, this is inappropriate, because he was shielded by, a guy who claims, the representative who supposedly prayed, I don't know who he prayed to, but supposedly prayed about how he was interacting and talking towards the Haitian immigrants, these people of color. But also the Speaker of the House, who supposedly calls himself a Christian, and just shielded this man from any kind of true apology or remorse, or an opportunity for true apology or remorse. And so you care more about the person that you have right there with you, because they're your friend, or they're in your party, they're a work associate or work buddy, then you care about the people whose lives are being altered by these lies and these hateful statements. And so the same way that no repercussions would happen to the member of the House is the same way that we kind of look at it, especially some of these faith-based organizations. Look, we have to be able to call it spade. If that's your party, if that's the politician that you like, when they mess up, you got to call them to the mat the same way you would somebody who's not the member of your party. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And I think sometimes we get kind of caught up into that. And silence is just as bad as not saying anything. When we're just going, we're going to let that slide, or we're just going to say it's okay, or I don't agree with that, but let's move on. All of that is the exact same thing, the same nothing. Comment. The issue that has to be considered is integrity. Is integrity important? Is it okay to lie for what you want? What about honesty and decency? What about intellectual integrity? Now, intellectual integrity, that's a big one. I think that's that honesty of not lying to yourself. Like, intellectually, are you really going to sit here and you're just going to say, well, that's okay, I'm going to lie and say this works? With the integrity issue, I think that's huge. But I think we need to start with organizational integrity. As organizations, as groups, as people, we have to start there with that organizational integrity. Individual integrity is good, and that's where it should be. But it doesn't do us, I think. I don't think it does people. It doesn't do us any good to privately be integritous and sit back and say, that's wrong. I say that in my closet, or I say that in my house, or I say that, under my breath. That's wrong. That's not good. But I don't say it out loud. I don't make it known that that's not inappropriate. I don't stand with the people who are being hurt and harmed. I just, I'm integritous in my own time. Because what we can't expect is for everyone out there to have integrity. No, these politicians, I'm not, the way I read the comment, I don't expect these leaders and politicians to be integritous. Unfortunately, that's not what we are. But what I do expect is the rest of us to have integrity and to push them to be more integritous. There's no reason for them to be more integritous right now. They're walking into a situation where there's no integrity required. They're walking to a situation where integrity is not rewarded, and they're walking into a situation where integrity, the lack thereof integrity, leads to no consequence. So they have no motivation to do the right thing. Once the environment came where openly lying was okay, floodgates were open. And the only way to get that kind of rain back in, only way to close that door is for one, us to stop accepting the lies And then two, for us to make sure that there is a consequence for the lies. And the consequence should be my support of you. The consequence should be, um, that you're not in the same space that you were prior to. Now, let's be clear. I'm not talking about cancel culture, but in the same time, I am talking about kind of like a cancel culture. Except for, I don't believe in canceling anybody, but there is a part of the relationship is not the same until you're able to restore it. You can't continue doing the wrong thing and think that everything should be the exact same. And I think that's the problem with what we're doing. We're being silent and we're not talking. And we're as organizations, as people of faith, we're not doing as much talking as we should have done, what we need to do. As much as we want to talk about good things and positive things, which we should, and let's highlight them, we can't let these bad things sit here and fester. The historical demise of great nations have also been when leaders with questionable morals and integrity take control. The United States is on a slow decline. Yeah, and we, the people, all of us, and again, especially faith-based community, we are responsible for who becomes a leader, and we are responsible for how we talk towards these leaders, talk about these leaders. In our leadership, there's a lot of levels of leadership, and it's a lot of level of people with questionable integrity and questionable morals. And unfortunately, that's a large part of the problem. Some of these leaders of the faith-based community have significantly questionable morals and integrity, but then the followers have a appetite for people with questionable morals and integrity. We like what they say, or we like how they look, or we like how they act, but we don't demand that they act with integrity and they act with morality. And unfortunately, we get what you get what you pay for, or you get what you ask for. You reap what you sow. And so for the rest of us, for the most of us, we sit back so silent for so long, and we just take what we get. And so we get worse and worse and worse people, people with less integrity and less morals, and we don't push back, and we don't have a standard for what we want. And so we're going to continue to get bad things. And so you're right. I think this comment is right on it. The United States is going to be on a slow decline as long as we don't demand that. All right. So basically, just to kind of hit what we're saying, or hit what I'm saying. Right now, what we have is a lot of people who are making up stories and lies, and they're hurting individuals. It was ridiculous that a story went out about Haitian immigrants. And I don't think the story is even about the Haitian immigrants. The story is about people of color. The story is about Black people. And that's where they really try to come at. And they hid it behind Haitian immigrants. But the reality of the matter is it's about Black people. And they're putting out certain messages to kind of let Black people know, like, look, y'all ain't us. And the problem with that is that we, faith-based community, everybody, we're not effectively pushing back and saying, like, that is not okay. There was never a situation where somebody should be able to say something like that, make up stories like that, and their political career, their social career be okay without them being able to have to be pushed into a position of where you don't feel like you have to apologize. You don't even care. You can just keep it going. The sad issue is that the Christian church is following the world. The word of God tells us we are the head and not the tail. Yet we are wagging all along. Yeah. And you're right. We're supposed to be the head and not the tail. And so the hard question, I think the hard question that many of us wrestle with is that, as we're supposed to be Christians and we're supposed to support one another, we're not really supposed to be in this whole big quarrel with one another. Even though we have a little bit of different ideologies, we're supposed to be together. And many a Christian knows that. Many Many a church will talk about that. Many a preacher will talk about that, of how we're supposed to be together, not trying to pick at one another as Christians. But the problem that we have, though, is that we have people who are not acting like Christians. And so it's a weird situation of where, all right, I need to support my brothers and sisters, even though we have some significant differences. But at the same time, what the people are doing is not representative of Christianity. So the truth of the matter is, I don't know you at all, because we're not truly brothers and sisters, because you're nothing like me. The only thing that we have in common is basically the names that we use and the labels that we use. Outside of that, nothing else matches up. Because the Bible that you're reading and the Bible that I'm reading, those things are not matching up. The way that you treat people and the way that I treat people, it's not matching up. What you think is important, what you think is the instructions or the directions given to us by Christ of how we're supposed to live, and what I think are not matching up. So it comes down to that weird situation of, well, what do we do? On the one hand, it has been hammered in. The Bible is very clear that we need to support one another, and we need to stop quarreling with one another. Paul has talked about it over and over again, repeatedly. And at this other time, it's these people might be frauds and are taking us down. Like, what do you do? Where do we land on that? And that, I think that's probably one of the bigger issues that we have to really talk it out. In the world, we gang recognize gang. And if you come up here and you say, well, I'm one of you, and I don't know you, then I'm going to make it very clear, I don't know you. You're not me. We're not the same. You're not going to come here. My last name is Watkins. You're not going to come here and say you're Watkins, and I'll be like, I don't know you. You don't act like us. You don't look like us. You don't do anything that we do. How are you a Watkins? Like, I don't. We're not doing that. And so I think unfortunately, I think that's the same way we have to wrestle with, because there are people out here who are not representing the faith. There are people out here who are turning folk away from the faith. There are people out here who are doing crazy things that I don't know what Bible they're reading. That representative, he prayed to somebody, but he did not pray to the same God that I prayed to. Because there's no way, there was absolutely no way that what he's learning and what I'm learning is the same, that we are on the same page. And so as much as he wants to call himself a Christian and I call myself a Christian, one of us is in the wrong boat. And how do we deal with that? And until we deal with that, more so, then we're going to have this issue of, we're going to have some Christians, like I'm proposing, that we make sure we call out morality and integrity. And then you're going to have some people who are just going to go along and continue to try to make things worse. You can't act like Christians when you have never been taught to be a Christian. Right. That's right. They've never been taught that. But what do you do when they call themselves that? And our thing is that we are supposed to be together. I don't want, and it sounds bad, I don't want to be together with somebody who calls themselves a Christian, but then is going to act unchristian-like. We can't be together. Unfortunately, and then we have to go. One of the things that was said this week, we had a guest preacher that came and said, it's terrible in the church, and it is. When people are like, well, I don't want this person praying over me, and I don't want that person praying over me. And you're kind of being judgmental because you don't like this person or that person. Well, we should, more so be together. And, that hit me, because I know that there have been people, not in my church or not in the same church family, but there have been people who came around and said, yeah, let's pray. I'm like, oh, I don't know you like that. Matter of fact, I know the way that you act and you roll, and I don't know where you're coming from. And so your prayers and who you're praying to, for example, that representative, I don't know who you're praying to. You may have the same names that you call out, but the name doesn't mean anything if it's not the same thing. And so I think that's the conflict. That's the question mark. That's where where we are. How do you deal with those who are not going to act right? Because again, I think our job is to call it out. Integrity, morals, call it out. Where I think some other people's job is to do something else that I don't know what it is. All right. I know that one was like, a little bit, not happy. um, but I think it needs to be talked about. I think we actually kind of need to go deeper on that and what our responsibility is to one another, especially to those who we significantly disagree with. That's a continuing conversation to have, not amongst each other, just plainly, but that's a conversation that needs to be had amongst Christians, amongst in Bible studies and in other forums like that. Because don't just go out here and try to do your own thing. Like I should not just go out here and try to do my own thing. I need to be listening to the counsel of those of the leadership. But those are the discussion points that we have to have. All right. Well, that's it. We kind of really hit through that one. As a reminder, Thursdays, Bible study, 7 o'clock here, Facebook and YouTube. Sundays, 10 o'clock, worship service, Facebook and YouTube, and in person. And then on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, we have prayer. You can pray anywhere. You don't have to call in or do anything. But if you do want to call in, leave a prayer request, feel free at the number on the screen. Thank you for everybody for joining us. As always, we're here every Tuesday, and we will be here next week as well. Have a good one, and please join us again.